Order the special board meeting of the Kingman Unified School District School Board, October 1st, 2024 at 4 p.m. Will you stand and say the pledge with us, please? I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You may be seated. Item number 3 on the agenda is the roll call. Tony Henry.
Star Jensen.
Boyd Hardy.
She hasn't joined yet. We may be expecting Lori to join on Zoom later in the meeting. But we have a quorum in attendance. So we will move on to item number 4, which is the call to the audience. The board will listen to any comment from the public, but will not respond except as permitted by ASR 38-431.01. The board may refer the item to the administration or request to have it placed on a future agenda. I didn't receive any calls to the public. All right. So we will move on to the reason that we are here. It's the discussion and possible action to approve in whole or in part the draft 2025 political agenda of the Arizona School Board Association, ASBA, and to select the district's delegate for ASBA. It's my understanding, though, that the delegate would have needed to be there for the law conference in September, correct? So we would not be taking that action today. So we, as a board, are just going to go over the legislative committee's draft.
I think you can choose a delegate to have for the year. There is one in December that they told me about that a delegate could attend.
Okay.
The December ASBA conference.
And they have the law there? I mean,
So they would want a delegate from the district to be there.
But is that?
A separate one.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. I haven't seen anything on that. I just knew they had the conference in December, their annual conference.
That was the law conference. The annual conference is the end of December.
Right, I understood that they did anything pertaining
Oh,
to
gotcha.
this information at that conference. Okay. So item, Roman numeral 1, adequately and equitably fund school districts to the national median per pupil funding. They changed at least the national median per pupil funding. Do we have any comments on that change right there? I don't think so. I'll just read and you guys interrupt. Okay, how about that? Number 1, maximize state funding to A, provide competitive salaries to attract, recruit, and retain talented teachers and staff. B, increase the pipeline of certified teachers. And C, fill difficult positions, including CTED instructors. Do we have any comments or disagreements, concerns with that statement?
We need all those.
I agree. Item number 2, provide consistent, dedicated sources of base funding that equips all Arizona public schools with adequate support to address the academic, social, and emotional needs of its students, including A, up-to-date curriculum, technology, and classroom support to enrich academic success and engagement. B, student support staff dedicated to enhancing safe and effective learning environments. C, exceptional student services to gifted students and early intervention programs. D, before and after school programs. E, they added fine arts education. F, and this is in addition to career and technical education. G, transportation. H, ensure the formula addresses the unique financial needs of schools serving students in poverty and in rural and remote schools. I, fund distant learning at 100%.
I like that last one. It's at 95% right now.
That was going to be my question.
Director Jones?
Yes, I'm excited. Well, I mean, they're advocating.
This is what they're
It's not a
advocating
done
for.
deal.
Right.
These are the things the Arizona School Board Association will advocate for
Right.
at the legislative level. So Is there any comments or questions?
I just have a quick question. The Boys and Girls Club that's opening or opened, is that anything to do with us funding? I know we said we're gonna drop kids off
No,
there
just,
that are
I
there.
literally met with them about an hour ago. I met the regional director. They told me they've hired the local staff. They're planning on opening in December. We will transport and we will bring an IGA to the next board meeting because they're gonna work with food services. KUSD is gonna provide breakfast and lunch in our food program, and then through an IGA with us, they'll provide snacks and dinner. So kids could be fed 3 meals and a snack a day if they're participating in the Boys and Girls Club. We do not provide any of that funding though, just the arrangement with food services and transportation.
Excellent, so.
Super excited.
Okay.
On H, does that mean just Title I schools? On the students in poverty in the rural and remote schools, how are they gonna decide that?
Do you know, Michelle?
Can you repeat that, Star?
On the H, it says, ensure the formula addresses the unique financial needs of schools serving students in poverty and in rural and remote schools. How are they gonna decide that?
I'm not sure how they're gonna ensure the funding. I know that they've added quite a few additional support grants, like to the K-3 literacy. They've added early literacy grants to the most impoverished schools. If they have the Title I, they kind of get we got that RLIS, it's the Rural and Low Income Grant. So they've added grants, so that what they're trying to do is just offer more opportunities for money, but I don't know about the formula that they're using to determine. More than likely it's on that low income, either level 1 or level 2, which is used to be free and reduced. Now it's low income 1 or 2.
Thank you.
All right. So are we in agreement then to agree with number 2?
Yes.
Number 3 is repeal the constitutional aggregate expenditure limit via legislative referral to the voters. So they want to send that AEL to the voters instead of us having to cringe
Every year.
They want to send it to the voters. Now, voters may not be nicer when it comes to taxes. Any thoughts or comments on that? I think it would be nice to have it in statute versus having to be concerned and think about it on a yearly basis personally.
With the cost of running an organization and budgets, we're just regularly above it as a state.
I'm good with it.
Number 4 is fully fund full-day kindergarten and include kindergarten students in the override calculations.
That would be about time.
All right. Number 5 is preserve and protect the voters' original intent of Propositions 123 and 301. Protect voters' intent in funding K through 12 education and oppose legislation that attempts to supplant and divert additional voter-approved funding streams. Did a little research on the Propositions 123 and 301. I'm not sure what attempts have been made to subvert it from voters' intent.
Yeah, we haven't seen that.
So that's a non-issue.
Okay. Number 6, index district additional assistance, DAA, funding for inflation. Seems like a given. Number 7, providing funding for new space before existing schools become overcrowded, and advocate for the SFOB to set standard for replacement of buildings that have exceeded their useful life. Advocate for capacity standards that reflect the design of instructional space.
I would love to speak to that.
Okay.
We work with SFOB, is School Facilities Oversight Board, as you might be familiar. And right now, the formulas to determine capacity are based on general square footage of the building. So closets, offices, all of the spaces in the building are used to calculate our capacity, and to me, this shows the important language of instructional space. So I think if they are aligning with that, that's an excellent idea, because right now, to become eligible for new funding, you have to be at capacity or over capacity of the space that's impossible to demonstrate you're at or over capacity on, and then the funding might be available, and then the lag that follows that is pretty difficult.
And I believe that we are in agreement with that statement. Number 8 is a new addition to this year's proposal. Provide consistent, dedicated, and flexible sources of ongoing state capital funding to Arizona Public Schools to fully maintain and renew physical assets that were built with either local or state taxpayer dollars. Is it that if we build certain buildings with different funds, say if it was a donated building, then the state doesn't allow us money to upkeep those?
Well, wouldn't that be, I know, like, what school is it that does not qualify for SFOB?
Oh,
Is
White
that
Cliffs,
Desert Willow.
Desert Willow,
Because
they were built with local taxpayer dollars, so they do not qualify. You're exactly right, Director Jones.
So depending on how the funding stream came, the state does not help us. So we have 2 of our newer schools that would.
Anything we need done there comes out of our M&O. It's not eligible for SFOB.
That seems like a smart addition. Number 9 and 10 are unchanged from previous years. Eliminate unfunded mandates and administrative burdens. And number 10 is protect desegregation funding and return it to the primary tax levy. Eliminate unfunded mandates, I believe, is an accurate thing to advocate for, and administrative burdens. That's a lot of legal stuff, right, that you guys are having to adhere to.
Hasn't happened yet, right?
No, this is still,
No, I'm just.
and then number 10 was one of the questions from the call to the public at the last meeting, the desegregation funding, and is that something that we receive?
it is not.
Okay.
Board Secretary Portillo, are we in a workshop or a board meeting?
I labeled it as a special meeting workshop.
Okay, so I just wanted the folks that are here to know, because it is a workshop and not a board meeting, they also have an opportunity to ask questions or make input. Workshops are open where anybody can have dialogue. So if you hear something, you have a question about
Sorry.
anybody in the audience.
Superintendent Dorner.
I have it labeled special board meeting.
That's why I asked, is it a board meeting?
Yeah, I
Or-
just realized I didn't know workshop, so it's special board meeting only right now.
Well, then we can ask for comments at the end then.
Okay.
Because I'd like to know if there is any from the audience.
Yeah.
Right, I thought it was a workshop.
Correct.
That was why I was asking at the beginning of the meeting process, because I wanted to make sure I clarified. So we don't receive desegregation funding, so it does not apply to us. And so whatever districts have advocated for this, it's unchanged from at least the previous year. So we will approve that. Number 11 has increased funding for exceptional student services based on the cost study, including for rural and remote areas, gifted students, and early intervention programs. Always want increased funding. You guys have any thoughts or questions?
No, agree.
I agree, but I got a quick question.
Yes.
Increased funding for exceptional students, what is that based off of? Is that based off of the ready tests, or how is that based? What exactly exceptional students
There's a
are?
variety of ways students can be exceptional.
Special education students, when they're assessed under one of the 13 categories from federal IDEA. Gifted is the other end of that spectrum. And then we have offer preschool to help kids hopefully catch up on what they're missing before they get to elementary school.
So students, when we do the census based on eligibility, their exceptionalism could be specific learning disability, hearing impaired, other health impaired, autism. There's 13 categories under the special education, and then under gifted, to qualify as an exceptional student under gifted, you have to meet criteria of the district's chosen gifted exam, which we use the COGAT. We give all second graders the gifted exam, and then any parent that makes a request at any time also will have the test administered, and you have to score to be eligible for that census at 97th percentile or above in qualitative, quantitative, or nonverbal categories.
Okay. So this is a state
Yeah.
set for the testing. Okay, thank you.
Number 12, fully fund the cost of student transportation for school bus services and maintenance supporting CTEDs and rural schools. The rural schools part was a big discussion at last year's conference when I was there. Some of the, like Dolan Springs would be considered to be quite rural, and transportation costs may not be being covered completely. The fact that their roads are rough, they tear up the buses quite a bit more and things like that. So to be able to fully fund versus adequately fund would be a good addition.
I do need to add about the buses in Tipton. They've tried to have them on pavement. Yeah, on better roads. Is insurance for transportation just come out of our general, or?
Yeah, there's a whole lot that goes into it. Did you want to speak to it? Or we have to fill out daily route miles. Every single bus that leaves and comes back has to have a count of the number of students riding, the number of miles, the odometer reading coming and going. They're logged every single day. Then there's what's called a Trans 55 report annually, where all of the number of our eligible students and the number of miles that were driven or input, and then there's a funding formula, and it's not you do get reimbursements, several $1 million, because we have 3,000 square miles of transportation routes. We do get quite a bit of it back, but it's not fully funded. Oh boy, and they, that is audited and checked very carefully. The number of eligible students, and to qualify to be an eligible student, you have to live, is it 1.5 miles away from K8? And
1 mile.
1 mile from
K8.
K8 and 1.5
Yeah.
from high schools. So that's a pretty wide parameter around schools to become an eligible student. If we were to choose to transport students within those boundaries, it's not reimbursable.
And insurance comes under transportation
Yeah.
with the state, or it comes under our district?
We pay for our insurance.
Yeah, just out of our general fund.
Okay.
So that 1 mile and 1.5 miles, is that direct or road distance?
Road distance, I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
I've seen some formulas where it was, like if you just drew a line from here to here, that's your 1 mile, but then you're going,
But if you can't get there from there to there,
in that straight line.
Yeah, I'm pretty
It
sure
ends
it's
up being
road.
more, so. Any other comments on that one? You're in agreement? Number 13, fully fund preschool programs in the K through 12 funding formula for districts that offer preschool. So would that have been where they were providing preschool money to some schools that didn't offer preschool in the
Well,
past?
preschool is its own entity entirely. It's grant funded and partially funded, and they're really only funding half-day kindergarten through high school, and then preschool, you have to apply, be approved, earn
So-
grant money.
So our Title I, we use a Title I set aside of our federal funds to pay for preschool, but it's limited, and then the other portion we pay through IDEA. So a lot of the students there are identified. However, it's limited, but we do have money to cover Mount Tipton and Las Anitas, so they have to be identified with our district. And it's a program we'd have to apply for, so we wouldn't be able to open one at another school quickly to fund it. It would be at least a year.
And then we charge tuition for any student that does not qualify under an eligibility criteria.
Yeah. But there are scholarships available through
First things first.
First Things First.
Any other comments? Are we in agreement?
Yes.
Number 14, replace current year funding with a transparent, reliable system that provides districts stable annual budgeting ability and technical reliability. It would be nice if they had a system that was a lot simpler.
It's very complicated.
It is. I just did a little bit of research into it and with the beginning of our situation. So a transparent, reliable system would be very nice.
I've got a question. This is probably not even that any of us can answer. Do we have any idea of what this magical, transparently reliable system is? Or is it just a Santa wish list and they're like, hey, we're gonna try?
Yes.
That's exactly what it is? Okay. So
From the
there's-
articles I've been reading, they would hope for something better, but there's nothing that's just out there.
I would hope the reliable part, and again, I'm
Oh, yes.
hoping, would be predictable. To me, predictable would be nice. We have to wait sometimes until just days before budgets are due, before the legislature decides on the funding for public education, then calculates the base rate per student, and by that time, we've already done staffing and, next year's planned, and so I'm hoping, Board Member Hardy, that it means we know ahead of time
Yeah.
what we're getting so that we can plan accordingly.
Okay, we are in agreement on that. 15, prorate funding over the entire school year among all schools that a student has attended during the year. So they took out the word public. Entire school year among all public schools that a student has attended during the year.
So right now, the 100th day is a key day. We've been talking a lot about this recently, actually. The baseline funding, or once they decide how much money there is, our pupil count comes from the 100th day, so that's sometime in February usually, late February. And so what I'm seeing is, if our kids are here on the 100th day and we count them and there's 7,000, let's say, that's our magic starting number. But I wonder if this means check to see if they were in 1, 2, 3, 4 other schools before the 100th day, and then piece it out. That seems contradictory to number 14.
Yes, because not transparent
Yeah.
or reliable. So, okay. Do we have any more comments on that one?
I mean, until I see it enacted, I'm not really sure what they want, or how it's gonna be figured out.
Again, and they're just advocating for it, it's not something that's on the record and in place. Number 16, give all districts the authority to provide affordable housing options to faculty and staff. From the previous years, listening in on the discussion, this was more for very rural schools that were having, and a lot of them were native people who were up speaking on this. But it's been in this agenda for at least several years. Some of the discussion was removing it, others was for leaving it in. It seems that they've chosen to leave it in again for this year.
Right, and I believe we have that option as well now as a board. If housing were a significant issue in our community, and we had the funds to purchase housing units or build them, that you could decide to do that. And then we would have to come up with a criteria, because with 700 employees, there would need to be equitable access to the few homes that might be available. We'd have to have a criteria for that, and it gets trickier in the bigger districts that are not on the rural reservation areas.
That is coinciding with the discussions that we're having.
There you go. Okay.
So it was more that maybe those districts needed to be advocating on their own versus having the advocate it to be available to all districts, so. So is that one we're okay with leaving in? Okay. All right, this is Roman numeral number 2. It says preserve, respect is an addition, and strengthen local control. Which means our local school boards in our local districts. Number 1, ensure local control and flexibility in managing funds and programs within the Arizona constitutional requirements of a general and uniform public school system. Number 2, change override / budget increase language to better reflect what voters are being asked to support. Update requirements associated with school district voter approved bonds and overrides to improve efficiency and permit more accurate presentations of estimated property tax rates. Questions? Number 3, allow school districts full flexibility in the divestiture of or use of taxpayer-funded assets. So we're restricted on how we can put funds in certain places. So does it look like they're just asking for us to be able to use, if we have the funds, we can use it for what we need? Is that what it looks like?
That's what it looks like to me.
Are we in agreement
Yeah,
so far?
I've got one quick question. When it's not crossed out or completely all in caps, these are things they've been asking for.
Yes.
So multiple years they've asked for schools for full flexibility. So again, this is just something we propose this and then it gets struck down or.
Yeah.
So I mean, a lot of these things are just, sadly, it looks like cut and paste every year. They're hoping to get these things.
Right, well, as the Arizona School Board, as a member of the Arizona School Board, that's what they were talking about, the representative earlier. So they have meetings, if you're part of the legislative committee, then they have meetings throughout the year to kind of discuss these. They hold webinars through the Arizona School Board Association's website that you can kind of join, where they may be talking about some of these things or what it looks like in the legislature. What is our state government doing when it comes to school funding and school control over schools? And so this is a representation of districts from around our state coming together saying, we really wish our state government would do this. So you are correct when you are saying it is a wish list. And so ASBA has people that go and lobby and request and talk to people and lawyers that are trying to get this done for us as a school, as schools across Arizona. So number 4, oppose legislative intrusion on school site budgeting decisions.
Agreed.
Number 5, maintain exclusive local authority over any measure that would propose to consolidate, unify, or restructure school districts. That means that's our choice, you know. You guys saw where like some cities have an elementary school district and a high school district, and they're controlled separately.
Yeah.
And ours is all one.
Since 2002.
Do you find that has been helpful? So not being part of the district before that? I mean, we literally moved to Kingman in 2002.
I was hired by Kingman Elementary School District, number 4, I think, in the 90s, and then there was Mojave County Union High School District, and in 2002 when they unified, it streamlined education in a very positive way.
So we would not want the state to come in and say, you got one too many schools, you gotta do this. So we are in agreement. Number 6, support local board authority for student suspensions and open enrollment policies based on capacity. Number 7, amend current statute to allow school board members to use the e-qual system in addition to in-person signatures to appear on the ballot. Any questions? Okay. Number 8, oppose any legislation that intends to lessen or curtail the legal authority of locally elected school boards, including their authority to approve curriculum.
Agreed.
Number 9, oppose legislative efforts to ban educational and supplemental materials that provide an inclusive and historically accurate, well-rounded education. Agreed. Number 10, oppose any legislation that seeks to make school board elections partisan. That is a new addition to this year's.
Agreed.
Number 11, modify the number of signatures required for CTED board to align with similar school board candidates. I don't know what their signature requirement is.
I don't either. I wish I could tell you how many of their board members there are on the WAVE board right now. But it looks like they're wanting that to align with,
Well, I know that.
I don't know how they get their signatures and how they're elected.
Well, it's population is how they, like, so here we needed, how many did you guys need? 260 something, like 264 or something like that?
264, yeah.
This WAVE
But
have a different.
if there's a school district that has a higher population, they might need 302 or something
Yeah, it's
like
based
that.
off of just a percentage of the
Yeah.
community, yeah.
So our TT, then maybe their boards are bigger and spread out across
Because it's Mojave
multiple
County,
districts.
right.
Yeah. All right. We'll let them advocate for that. All right. Roman numeral number 3, improve opportunities is an addition and outcomes for all students. Number 1, increase the compulsory attendance age from 16 to 18 or the attainment of a high school diploma or GED before the age of 18. So this was a question that was asked at the last one about this one too. If they increase it to 18, does that mean they couldn't graduate early? Which I wouldn't think that's what ASBA is advocating for, but it does make it kind of sound that way.
It says or attainment, so
A GED.
high school diploma or GED. So 16 to 18 years or the attainment of a high school diploma. So I think if you graduated with your diploma at 17, then that compulsory expectation drops. That's a big change.
Yes. What are you guys' thoughts?
I like it because I don't know how many times we've heard, when I turn 16, I'm dropping out. So,
I mean, I think it's good, but again, I can tell it's not highlighted and or bold, so.
Yeah, it's been in there for a
It's been in
while.
there, so we'll hope, but I like the idea of
Well, I think
giving them that option.
when our brains aren't all the way developed yet, it's
Yeah.
probably a better idea. Number 2, repeal and replace Proposition 203 with research-based bilingual education reform, language learner models of instruction to increase integration of English learners and give schools flexibility and resources to administer them. You like that one?
I do.
Okay.
I don't know, because it's an Arizona revised statute, how much power they would have, but if they can repeal that would be amazing. Currently, it's English only, so all instruction, materials, and resource must be in English. We cannot use anything in their home language to assist students.
Even though your intention would be to help them learn English. You're correct in statute, but that's what they're trying to do, is
Yeah.
to advocate for repealing. You guys have any questions or thoughts? Number 3 is fully restore 9th and 13th grade CTED funding, allowing them to serve students through age 21 regardless of graduation status, to expand the window of opportunities students have to complete industry-recognized CTE programs.
It's a detriment to not have funding for 9th graders, because a lot of 9th graders, Liz, you can answer any of these questions. A lot of 9th graders participate in CTE pathways, but we do not receive, or the WAVE does not receive funding for them. Is that correct?
I did not know that.
Yeah.
I thought, yeah. What is the 13th grade?
Oh, 13th is, you can continue wave-funded classes after you graduate, the year after you graduate. So you might earn your Kingman High School diploma, but WAVE would continue funding courses at MCC. Maybe you're finishing your path in welding or culinary or nursing, and they'll fund that year out of high school.
So as of right now, they don't?
The 13th year is,
Okay, so again, this is a broad sweep of the state, and some places might not, but we do.
We agree with that, correct?
Yes.
yeah, you've got your diploma, but you didn't finish your certification, and they'll let you continue and continue to.
Yeah, that is definitely good. Number 4 has been removed. I think they incorporated it in number 3, that statement. Number 5, support policy that recognizes, respects, and promotes teaching as a profession. That seems like a given.
Yeah.
Number 6, defend against effort to limit free speech rights of school employees. That's a constitutional thing. Number 7, oppose regulations, policies, and restrictions that overburden or unreasonably penalize educators and support staff as they educate and care for students. So are there regulations and policies and restrictions that overburden educators and support staff that we would be concerned about and want to advocate more for?
I would believe an example might be exactly what we were just talking about. We refer to them as unfunded mandates quite often, where they might even be a good idea. Of course, we want to have programs and procedures and systems for our EL students, but to give us the space to provide those services without all of the unnecessary mandates.
All right, so we agree with that.
Yeah.
Number 8, they had rethink and changed it to redefine the role and purpose of standardized testing and develop meaningful assessments and other measurable outcomes. I think we do agree with that.
Yes.
And that's a conversation between the federal government and the states.
Number 9, support policy that protects school district employees and students from discrimination, including on the basis of sexual orientation and gender identity. I know that was a question that came across at the call to the public, but
Is that part of OCR?
Yeah, that's OCR,
Yes, that's.
Office of Civil Rights.
Yes, that's out of our hands.
yep. Number 10, support legislation and access to funding that would allow school districts to offer school meals to all students free of charge, which we did. Yay. But they are wanting all schools to have access to what we did without having to jump through all the loopholes. So, all right, so it looks like we are in agreement with all the items in section 3. Roman numeral 4, require public accountability and transparency for taxpayers' dollars spent on education. Number 1, establish financial and academic transparency for all institutions and individuals who accept public funds. Enforce financial audit requirements and seek recovery of improperly received and/or expended funds by individuals, charters and public schools, private schools, and organizations.
Yes.
Yes, I agree. Anyone that receives taxpayer money should be transparent and accountable. Number 2, repeal any program that gives funds for private schools, vouchers, the empowerment scholarship accounts, and private school subsidies, school tuition organizations, and prevent any future expansion.
Yep.
You're for repealing the school choice, school scholarship, the ESAs, school choice,
Yeah.
Star? I believe they should be held to the same standards that school districts are, but I still believe that there should be a choice. If one environment is better for a student, then it should be acceptable for the taxpayer dollars to educate that child, but it should be held with more accountability than they
That's the thing,
currently
is
are.
I think it should be repealed until they fix these loopholes that are being exploited and the money that's, because I know that number one relies desperately on number two, or number two relies on number one. I think there's gotta be full transparency, and I think that people are exploiting something that could be good. But as of right now, I just think it needs to be stopped until they figure it out. I think we're just carting for the horse on that one.
Maybe we're just coming up with the language to, I was looking for.
I would agree, President Henry, and I'm okay with choice as well. Different families require different pathways, but number 7, you know, the policies and the compliance requirements of districts are not the same as the requirements for private entities, and until they are, it's apples and oranges. And I think students and families should expect the same high quality either side of it.
And it's still taxpayer money without accountability in some cases.
Number 3, require comparative classroom spending audits for school districts and all other institutions that accept public funds, and define classroom spending as both instructional spending and student support spending. So I realize this is going back to the ESAs and requiring them to define the classroom spending, but what's the difference between the instructional spending and support spending? Is the support mostly for staff?
Yeah, instructional spending would, and we do have audits that separate that, like administrative costs and facilities costs versus classroom teachers, paraprofessionals that support the classroom. How much are we spending on the student curriculum, teachers, accountability versus running the organization?
Agreement?
Yes.
Number 4, support policy that encourages all eligible voters to exercise their right to participate in elections.
Absolutely.
All right, so we then are in agreement with item number 4, even though we might disagree on how that gets done.
Yeah.
Number 5, Arizona rural and remote schools. This is an unchanged section. I'll just read all 3. Number 1, ensure that students in Arizona's small, rural, and remote schools are considered by policymakers alongside students in large metropolitan schools. Number 2, equitably invest in technology modernization, reliable internet broadband access, technology support capability, and professional development. Number 3, protect rural and remote school districts from inequitable impact due to formula adjustments, including transportation. Because it would be the Rural School Alliance that came up with that section. We are not considered to be a rural school, correct? Or are we? Not that we're in a disagreement. That makes sense. All right, item to Roman numeral number 6, school safety and security. Number 1, provide funding to individual districts to implement locally directed research-based school safety programs and mental health and well-being initiatives.
Agreed.
Number 2, support policy that promotes social emotional wellness as a critical component of improving social climate, safety, and learning for all our students and staff.
With that policy, would it include people to implement it, like counselors?
They're advocating
It's easy to
for it.
support a policy, but
Well, and right now, the Arizona Department of Education does not promote social emotional awareness at all.
Well, that
And
would
so
be
I
one
think
of those
this is saying that
political hot
Aspen-
buttons where people are using it incorrectly,
Right.
implementing it incorrectly.
Correct.
But we had those discussions here on our board
Yes.
and with you, and
Yeah, we will always be transparent on what we're doing.
number 3, Arizona school boards call upon all state, federal, tribal, and local officials to address the causes and impact of increased self-harm and violence at K-12 schools.
Yes.
Number 4, Arizona school boards call upon all state, federal, tribal, and local officials to address the causes and impact of increased gun violence directed at K-12 schools.
I can tell you that we are in collaboration with Juvenile Probation, Kingman Police Department, and the Supreme Court right now, looking at these items. That's the meeting that I attended, so there will be family meetings, school meetings, about what's happening and the causes and how to best address it going forward.
We'll be looking forward to those. Number 5, fund programming to engage and support families and caregivers in culturally relevant and appropriate ways. What kind of programs do we have that engage and support families and caregivers in culturally relevant and appropriate ways?
Currently, that would be, we have our Title I, and they have money that's set aside specifically for parent engagement that's intended to meet the needs of that, each school's local families. And so the parents can choose to vote on the money and how it would support and encourage the parents. So it would be based on whatever that, their social culture would be within each school in our district. We also have our Title III money, and we have some Title IV. Our Title IV money, we have it in little buckets, and one of those is a well-rounded education, and the requirement is to ensure that we are supporting the different cultures within our school to make sure that we welcome all students, all families on campus.
But we have to do it in
We have to look over it.
Number 6 is an addition, develop a more comprehensive harassment/bullying definition and system to better enhance the clarity of understanding and the protection of our youth. And they put a code in here, 15-341A36. So I'm guessing that must be the statute that applies to that, but we don't have a specific definition, so it's very difficult. I mean, I understand by working with kids, that you'll have, even in my church context, a parent come and say, well, that child's bullying, and that's not what I would consider bullying. So I'm guessing in a big school district area, you have a lot of that, trying to determine what that
And there is a very specific process of identifying the bully and the victim and the perception of what's happening, and each school has a system of working through that. And it is, and I wholeheartedly agree with this being on here, this is one of the most difficult pieces of education is bullying and harassment.
And where do you punish versus taking the side and teaching them social skills?
It's two-part, yeah, teaching resilience and then having a no tolerance for the it's a persistent harassment of another student.
I went to
Defining an agreed upon outcome with parents, students, and the school.
I went to a conference and took a workshop where they were discussing statistics that show when kindergarten became more educational based rather than social, learning how to get along with each other, learning empathy and compassion, which is what kindergarten was more, say, when I went to school, versus learning how to add and subtract and read by the end of kindergarten, that they can track the uptick of bullying when we took out that learning to get along as society aspect of kindergarten. Would that be something that maybe you, being in education for so long?
Yeah, that's
They had great numbers, but
that's the social emotional piece, and we need to have conversations in the entire community, because it is not our job to indoctrinate students and put our beliefs. It's the family's job to have the morals, the values, and raise the children in the manner that they wish. And then to work with them, though, on providing that social emotional framework, human kindness, and how to interact with one another without that perceived indoctrination piece. And I would agree that we need to move more toward that again, and that's where we've got to have that social emotional curriculum that is approved and transparent and shared and then followed through on. And consequences.
Yeah,
when those commitments are broken.
100%.
that's part of our informed citizenship.
Yeah, that's part of exactly our mission, engaged and informed citizens. You know, to know better is to do better, cause and effect, and students need to know that, again, without defining the values of the home, but how to behave responsibly as a citizen in the school and the community.
So that concludes section number 6. We are in agreement with that section. The last section, Roman numeral number 7, federal advocacy. Number 1, advocate for federal and tribal assistance for bus routes on tribal and federal land. That has been brought up through multiple other statements about the transportation. Number 2 is fully fund, instead of advocate for fully funding. The Individuals with Disability Education Act, Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, IDEA. So it's only partially funded now, and they're advocating for fully funded. Is that more or
Right.
less?
And I
the
think
understanding?
Director Jones could give you recent numbers and an assessment of our budget, looking at budget revision season where special education costs, I think, increased $3 million over the prior year. And so it's costing us more to provide services, but we're not receiving the funds to pay for those services.
So we're in agreement. And then number 3, oh, did you have a question?
Nope.
Okay. Number 3, oppose efforts that would reduce or interrupt impact aid funding and the Secure Rural Schools program to Arizona schools districts that receive it. So we don't receive that. So we would continue to allow them to advocate for it. Any other questions or comments from the board? So then the other part of this was to elect a delegate, unless we want to give our other 2 board members an opportunity. If the meeting is in December next week, we could put that on the agenda to elect a delegate if we want
Oh, they do that.
to try to give them the opportunity.
And would it be better to do it in November after the elections, knowing who's going to be on the board?
Is that too soon?
soon.
I know you checked into the reservations for Star and when they can open. Does it work the same way as it did for me to register and cancel with no penalty?
Yes, you have, yeah, as long as you let us
We
know.
register early that this person or this person wanted to be the, because they won't even, if a new person is elected, they won't be installed until January. So that they wouldn't be eligible then at that point, correct? To attend as a member?
Yeah, whoever is elected in November, at the December, you would still be an act, whoever is on this board would still be an active member.
In December. Okay. Want to do it at the next meeting then?
I'm good to do it.
Let's do
Yeah.
the next meeting.
So then the action here would be that.
The next, I'm sorry, the next meeting being November after the election.
Well, there is a next meeting next week.
That's what I was clarifying. It won't do any good if we don't know in November who the,
But they would, all of us would still be active members in December and still eligible to attend the conference. If someone was new, they wouldn't be eligible yet because they would not have been installed to the board.
yeah. My thing is you'd want somebody though that was continuing to be the representative on your delegate for, into the next year.
I mean, it makes sense. I think that's a good idea just to wait until after the election, because if it's Star or myself and then we go to this, it's great, we went to it, but then all of a sudden, we're done.
And you come back and participate in all the board meetings anyways.
There you go, be part of it. No, I definitely think, if it's okay and doesn't affect any reservations or it's all adjustable.
The thing that it would affect is sometimes they fill up quickly and you don't get reservations on site and you end up at a further away venue. That's the only, that would be the
Can
only
we reserve the
downfall.
room knowing that one of us would be there?
Yeah,
Just
and
put-
then if you don't go, we can put somebody in
Just
your
plug and
place.
play.
Yeah.
You can change right to the last minute.
Yeah.
Perfect.
You can.
Without penalties.
Right.
So do we still want to wait till November?
Yeah, I think
Okay.
it'd be better.
All right, so we'll add that to November. And then,
I want to have the call to the public again, just in case any
Oh,
of our guests
yes.
wanted to speak.
thank you for, I wrote it down, but I wrote it after the adjourn, so. Does anyone in the audience have a comment or question? We had the call to the public at the beginning, but we are putting it at the end also. So this would be a reminder that the board can listen to any comments from the public, but will not respond directly except as permitted by Arizona Revised Statute 38-431.01. We can refer the board to the administration or request it to be placed on a future agenda. If someone had something that they wanted to, please,
Yeah.
please come up.
Do I just want?
Yes, please. Thank you.
Hi. My name is Sydney. Some of you are familiar. I know some of you guys. I have children that are in the district. I know I'm speaking on behalf of a lot of parents that are concerned about the recent threats. And to me, when I've worked with kids that have had mental health issues, to me, if there's kids that are threatening a school, they obviously they're struggling and they're calling out for help. It isn't that they're being facetious or trying to cause problems or disrupt. They're calling out for help. And then the same with our kids. So I did my own research, and you guys can take it into consideration or not. But there are grants out there that helps with grant writing. I know that Mojave County and KUSD is limited on funds and the stretch of how we can help these kids with mental health issues. That is my biggest concern as a parent. Coming from, I have a child that struggles with mental health issues, and it's a daily struggle. I know that there are some grants out there that can help you. Starr knows me personally. It's a big thing for me to have to advocate for kids in the community, because what we want is these kids to be functional. We want them to be good. I want my kids to be safe from a school shooting, and I know many parents do. So there are things that's called the Green Light Initiative, and it's Matthew McConaughey and his wife. They have a grant writing to help bring money in so that we can reach these kids that have these mental health issues, because that's literally what it is. I know that parents are going to be parents, and they're not going to be the best, and we do have a drug epidemic and stuff, but if as a community and as a school district, if we can reach our hands around them, I think that we can help keep our kids safer, and that includes the kids that are struggling with mental health.
Can we get your contact information and invite
Yes.
you to a meeting, and you can bring a group with you?
Yes.
That would
yes,
be awesome.
Yes.
Do you mind coming
Yeah,
by?
I can give you my stuff right now.
I would love to meet with you.
Yes. Is there any other comments?
And then
or
feel free to
questions?
invite others to come along.
I'm surprised they didn't come, but I know as well.
So I'll call you tomorrow and we'll set a time.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
I'm Susan Collins. I'm a member of the community, a former teacher here at KUSD, a current higher ed faculty member, and an education advocate. I want to say the discussions today have been great. It's been great to listen to it. I'm glad that our board is supporting so many things on this agenda. Some of the items that I made some notes about. Item number 5 in section 1 about the Prop 123 and 301. Those were citizens initiatives that were specifically tasked to put direct funding into our school systems. And as they have sunsetted and been renewed, the legislature has attempted to politicize them and divert those funds, and that's probably one reason that that's on there, because we want to make sure that does not happen. About transportation, some of my information is not accurate, absolutely current, but the last that I knew, the transportation reimbursement that we received did not cover any of the vans that we run for smaller areas. It only covers school buses.
That is true.
Okay. And we have the 5th longest school bus route in the nation.
Mm-hmm.
So, funding for, I know you guys know, funding for transportation is a huge, huge item for us. I would love to see some type of transparent, reliable formula. I have no idea what that would look like, but waiting until the last month of June when the legislature finally decides to drop the budget bills and debate them in the middle of the night is a crummy way to run a school system. So advocating for a better system is definitely something we need to do. I know the housing option doesn't impact us currently, but like Grand Canyon Public School District, they need to provide housing.
Yeah.
They're able to. We want to, advocate for those districts that need that to be able to do it. Places like Sedona and Cottonwood, Lake Havasu City, Sierra Vista, and Vail, housing prices are horrendously high. Teachers have to live 50 to 100 miles from where they work to afford a place to live. So those districts need to have that opportunity. Some of the overburdensome mandates that our legislature has tried to enact, and because of advocacy from ASBA and other groups, they have not been able to. One that I particularly think is absolutely abhorrent is posting all instructional materials for the entire school year online before the school year even starts. The National Board for Professional Teaching Standards says that an accomplished teacher knows their students, knows how to teach them, and meets their needs. How can you know what your students are going to need for an entire school year when you haven't even met them? So those are some of the things that have been attempted that ASBA advocates opposition to. And if those are things we need to oppose. So I just wanted to add that. You guys are doing a great job. I've been, like I said, really pleased with the conversation here, and thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for adding context. And then, since this is an action item, there'll be a motion then to accept the report of the ASBA Legislative Committee draft 2025 political agenda.
I'll make the motion.
A motion on the table, is there a second?
I will second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Is there any other questions or comments?
Did Lori make it online?
Then I will adjourn the meeting.